Side view of that. All right, this is how it works in relationship with the opponent. On the first one, Carlos comes in and I stop him right in his track. Again, he comes in, stop him right in his track. This will be done 1, 2, so I can follow up with my overlapping techniques. On the second technique, I had a finger jab. The finger jab is me being the hunter. In other words, I'm the one who initiates the attack and I'm using the finger jab as my entry attack. So it'll be 1, boom, 2. Again, I'm going right to the target and following up with a second shot. The third one, somehow, we ended up close. That can be determined by a scenario or by the territory that you're inside. Maybe you're in a bar and you're up close. Maybe you're on the line to the movie theater and all of a sudden he chips you on the shoulder and he turns around and he's right there and you didn't have a chance to open the distance. All of a sudden I feel that Carlos makes a jilt. To me, that's aggressive. In other words, I'm going to react. I don't know what he's going to do. I know what I'm going to do. Here, I'll go right under the Adam's apple and I'm shoving backward. What this will do, it will do two things. Number one, I'm going to open the distance and get a freebie on the groin shot. Number two, I am going to make him gag. When somebody gags, in reality, what you're doing is you're short-circuiting his thought. In other words, he's too busy catching his breath because then you can follow up with your attack. So again, you had the first one, the second one, and finally the one up close. 3 different techniques, 3 different objectives. All right, that brings us to techniques from the rear hand. All right, now I'm going to involve my rear hand into my weapons. The first technique is going to be a step-in cross. Okay, what I'm doing here is I'm stepping in, rotating, and I'm throwing my punch right in front of my face as a building defense. Don't throw your punch over there, and definitely don't throw your punch over there. Use the punch as you're building defense. Side view of that. Good. It's important that you keep your hand on impact nice and tight. If your hand is loose, you're going to fracture the bones right here and you won't be able to grab later on in the fight. Make sure your hand is nice and tight, like you're holding something in your hand that you don't want to let go. Second technique from the rear hand is going to be coming from underneath. Okay, what I'm going to do, this technique deals with somebody who's going to attack you from up above. Either he's much taller than you, or either he's standing upstairs on stairs and he's starting to attack you. You're initially going to do this out of instinct or reflex. If you didn't do this, this technique is irrelevant. In other words, you get hit. All right, I'm going to build in on that instinct and shove my palm right in his nose. Okay, so I'm coming in from underneath and shove here. Don't rotate yourself. If you rotate yourself, you're going to open yourself up. And most people that hit from above are going to try to hit you over and over again. So you maintain that defense and coming in. Side view of that. All right, the third technique from the rear hand is what we call the up and over. I call this technique up and over because I'm going up and over to the other side of my shoulder. It's going to go up and over here. It's important here that you keep your hand 90 degrees, not greater. If it's greater, might as well hit him with a cross. And not tighter, so you're just going to end up brushing him. It's 90 degrees. If you open your hand, you should be able to see your palm. Don't hit him to the body, and then you're going to compromise your wrist. You compromise your wrist in a fight, it's going to cost you, because later on you can't grab either a weapon or you can't grab him. All right, so you're coming up and over to the other side. This technique is designed when you up close. He locked horns with you, and you're going to slip that punch right behind his front elbow into his lower rib to short-circuit him again. He's going to think, oh, he took my breath out, and therefore you're short-circuiting him, his way of thought. So I'm coming in here and up. Side view of that. All right, let's put it together in relationship to an opponent. The first technique was the step-in cross. I'm going to step in and deliver my cross right in the middle of his face. Again, I'm stepping in and delivering right the cross in the middle of his face. It is important here that you don't anchor your rear leg. In other words, if you anchor your rear leg, you're going to drop your perimeter and you're going to hit him in the stomach or in the chest instead of in the face. I need to move both legs in so my shot goes right where it was intended. Again, step in and cross. Right there. Our second shot from the rear hand is from above. Now watch here, I'm freezing him for a reason. I want to keep this block at a 90-degree angle. If I open the degree bigger, I am directing him to my lower part of my body. If he's got a blade, it's going to be a problem because I'm directing him to cut me. I want to maintain a 90 degrees so it's an obstacle and it remains there for either multiple attack or so I don't direct him somewhere else. From here, I'm going to shoot my palm right in the middle of his face. Right there. One more. Full speed. Good. Last one in this segment is when we locked horn. A lot of time in fist fights, street fights, people lock horn, either out of trying to pose or either naturally it got there. Right here, I'm coming in with the up and over, sneaking it right in front of his elbow, targeting the lower rib. Right there. All right, this brings us to a segment of delivery. All right, we have two types of delivery when it comes to punch attacks. We have delivery in offense and delivery in defense. Delivery in offense means going forward. Obviously, we have the momentum and with the aggressor, all right? Basically, I'm throwing my punches going forward, right, going forward in an attack, on and on, overlapping. This will create that I'm overlapping, overwhelming him by overlapping, and keeping him on his heels. Therefore, he's no longer effective, and I'm driving him back. Okay, that obviously is the best way to do it. Now, sometimes in a fight, you're going to be the underdog. In other words, he's going to get the first shot. If he gets the first shot and you mentally or physically collapse, basically you're going to lose the whole engagement. In other words, sometimes you're going to have to back up, recoup ground, and attack, deliver in defense. That means you're going to have to deliver your punches going backward. Now, this will be done like so. I'm coming in. 1, 2, swing back. 1, swing back. 1, 2, swing back. 1. Now, obviously, the delivery in defense is there to reconquer the offense. In other words, one of those shots will connect. As soon as I connect, I will reconquer the offense. Now, it is important when you go backward not to shuffle back your feet. If you shuffle back your feet and he catches you, or in other words, he hits you while your feet are together, you're going to get knocked down. If his shot was strong enough, you got knocked out, it's over. If his shot wasn't strong enough, you got knocked down, now you invited a ground fight. Make sure it's 1, 2, swing back, 1, swing back, 1, 2. That is a segment that covers delivering offense and delivering defense. Most people have no problem going forward. But when they go backward, they start blocking. Every time somebody attacks me and I start blocking, I essentially asking for a turn. In other words, I'm saying, when is my turn? Nobody's going to give you a turn. You're going to have to create the turn. In other words, you throw your punches and back up. Make your defense an offense, simultaneously offense, defense. Try to reconquer the offense. That brings us to the issue of smoothness in your technique. It's important that when you attack, that you stay smooth. All the techniques in the Agana system are non-acrobatic, or in other words, nothing is fancy. Everything, it goes in relationship to your body naturals, not against it. In other words, I'm not going to do anything that I'm going to have to stretch out before I do it. I can do all my techniques on cold. When somebody's going to attack you, they're not going to schedule it. They're not going to say, I'm going to attack you in 10 minutes, go warm up on the other side. You have to be able to be smooth in all your techniques without having like a mechanic parts behind it. Also, if you move smooth, it's going to be fast. A lot of people in martial arts try to be fast, and then they have a telegraphic motion, or they too much contract first, and then it's not fast because it's a jerking motion versus a smooth motion. Smooth is fast. If you learn to do the technique smooth and you do it over and over again, in other words, it gets into your muscle memory system, but you have it nice and smooth, you will become fast. So don't rush the training. You have to, when it comes to combat, you have to come and that everything comes out easy. In other words, in Israel, we say the more you sweat in training, the less you bleed on the battlefield. It's exactly the same concept. The more I'm going to do it smooth in training over and over again, when I'm going to get in a combat situation, it's going to be easy for me and it's going to be fast because I do it smooth. All right, now that we're done with the punches, it brings us to the segment of elbows. We have 2 sets of elbows in the Agana system. The first set being the self-defense elbows. In other words, the fight was not scheduled and he launched an attack and I was not ready for it. In other words, I'm the underdog and this is my last line of defense. And the second set being hand-to-hand combat elbows. Basically, the fight was scheduled and I'm fighting out of my hand-to-hand combat. Because the self-defense elbow set is a last line of defense, it is super important that you drill these elbows, that it becomes second nature. Sometimes, even though you drill those elbows, you will get hit in the first engagement, but because you're training the elbows to be counterattacks, it will give you a chance to recoup instead of just decomposing mentally and physically under the stress of the incoming attack. The first elbow in the self-defense elbow will be what we call the straight elbow to the neck. What I am doing is I'm stepping a step forward with my opposite leg. In other words, I'm in neutral stance. Neutral stance means I'm just standing there minding my own business. All of a sudden, he comes and attacks me out of nowhere. I will take a step to jam his attack and my elbow is going to go right in the side of his neck. Right in the side of his neck. I am using my other hand as a trapper. In other words, then in reality, will grab the other side of the neck and my shot will go to the carotid, stunning him. In other words, short-circuiting him. Again. Side view of that. All right, here's the elbow in relationship to an opponent. We're standing up close. I see Carlos squeezing his hand, or maybe his hand goes behind his body. That to me indicates that he's going to deploy a weapon. I don't wait for Carlos to come with the attack and then block. Okay? As soon as I feel any danger, I step in and I shoot the elbow right in. This is karate. All right, come back, please. Again, he's coming in, and it goes right here. This will short circuit him and stun him. In many cases, you can drop a man that way. All right. Now, if I would have waited and blocked, then he would have already launched his second attack, and then I had to deal with multiple attackers. As soon as I feel any danger, I step in, and it goes right here. Second elbow in the self-defense segment is the elbow to the side. I am not going to deal with a multiple attacker situation. Originally, I am dealing with subject A, which is in front of me. All of a sudden, I have a sixth sense telling me, or I feel, or maybe he announced himself. In Israel, it's Allah Akbar. Here, maybe he's cussing you out because it's his brother or whatever, and he's coming from the side. I do not turn and look at him. If I turn and look at him tactically, I lost my view with my primary subject, and that's a problem tactically. In other words, I'm going to have to deal with him without looking at him completely. Also, if I turn and look at him, I'm going to identify him. Identify means I'm going to have to process, and it takes too long. Or maybe you thought that this guy was on your side, and all of a sudden you're so surprised by it that he's helping this guy. In other words, I'm going to have to react without looking at it. This is done so by moving both legs. I'm going to move both legs to the direction where the danger is coming in, jamming it in. I don't get away from it. If I get away from it, that whole momentum and this one gets triggered, and then I'm inviting the devil into me. In other words, I'm going to jam it. Both legs move in. Do not anchor this leg. If you anchor this leg, you load your perimeter and you're going to hit him in the chest, no big deal. While I move in, because I don't have an eye view with him, I do not know if he's got a blade or a weapon. Therefore, I'm going to put my hand by my neck. If I put my hand by my neck and I get cut, I'll get cut in my hand, I'll survive. If I get cut in the throat, it's over. In other words, I'm going to have to protect that throat. I'm moving in and putting that hand by the neck. Moving in and putting that hand by the neck. In doing so, I deliver my elbow. My elbow goes right in his face, in his throat, wherever it's going to connect. Right there. All right. Now that I dealt with this one, if this one gets in the fight, I can kick him in the groin, open up a triangle. Now I can assess which one I'm going to take out first. Usually I would like to take out the one that got hurt the most because it's going to be easier to deal with to begin with. All right, so again, say elbow to the side. All right, here's the side elbow in relationship to an opponent coming in. The next elbow in the self-defense segment is the uppercut elbow. I am going to drive my elbow right in the center line, collecting his chin from underneath. This elbow is designed for closing quarter. In other words, he's right on top of you, and you're going to drive your elbow straight up. While I do so, I'm going to put my other hand by my neck. So in case he went to choke me, I have a hand there, and he won't succeed in his choke. The elbow is very important that you go in the center line. Don't go over there, and definitely don't go over there. There's nothing worse than throwing an elbow and realize you missed, and he starts his attack. It's done so by pivoting your leg that's on the floor. I pivot my leg that's on the floor, and that allows me to travel right in the center line. Again, right in the center line. Here's the uppercut elbow in relationship to an opponent. This is designed for up close. It is important here that you don't make a step forward. If you make a step forward, you'll get stuck on his chest. It is simply a rotation, picking up his chin from underneath. Carlos is up close to me. He jilts. I see his hand disappearing behind his back. He's going to deploy a weapon. I don't wait for the attack to come in. I go right into my counter attack, protecting up, collecting his chin right from underneath. The next elbow in the self-defense segment is the in-trapping elbow. I am not going to deal with an opponent who's going to throw a wide punch at me and I saw it coming in. Instead of me backing up and inviting more momentum, which would be much more dangerous to me, I'm going to step in and jam. What I'm going to do is I'm going to step a walking step right in front of my opposite leg. Don't go across because then you expose your kidneys, no good. Just in front. As you do so, you're going to shield yourself. In other words, just like if something would fall on you and you're shielding yourself out of fear. Right here. From here, elbow gets shot right in his neck or in his face. Shielding yourself and elbow. The next two elbows in a self-defense segment are elbows to the back. These are specific elbows that are dealing when somebody attacks you from the back. Before I cover the elbows, I want to make something clear. If somebody comes from the back and wanted to kill you, these techniques are irrelevant. In other words, he would just did it. He's going to grab you. In other words, bear hug you or maybe go to choke you. The reason why he's apprehending you is because he's got an objective. Either he's going to want to do something with your body, in other words, take you to secondary location and do whatever you with your body. Either he needs to kidnap you for ransom, in other words, it's financial motivated, or either he needs information out of you and he needs to get it out of you. If he wanted you dead, this is irrelevant. In other words, the guy comes and bear hug me. What I'm going to do is I'm going to rotate my body. Initially, in the whole scenario of self-defense, I will hit this groin first, but right now I'm covering only elbows, so I'm going to only isolate the elbow. I'm going to rotate my body. Now, rotation of the body gives me access to hit a target. If I simply elbow backward, he's not there. His body's not there. I'm going to have to rotate my body. From here, I'm shooting a sharp elbow to his lower rib. In other words, rotation, find the target, and I'm shooting an elbow. It's important as an Agana practitioner that you learn to be effective when it's tight, okay? It's no big deal to be effective when all the techniques have a long range of motion and have a lot of momentum. When it's up and tight, you're going to have to be effective as well. So I'm rotating and shooting the elbow. Rotating, shooting the elbow. Side view of that. All right, the second elbow that goes to the rear is what we call snokeret. Snokeret in Hebrew means playing pool. It's the same thing as when you play pool, the elbow goes straight back up. In this segment, I'm going to pick up his chin from underneath. Now that will be done in a self-defense scenario after I hit him in the groin, after I hit him in the lower rib, and now he presents his chin coming in. I'm going to bump myself back so he presents his chin. If I simply pick up my elbow, it's going to be okay. Me bumping it, I'm basically supercharging that elbow to make damage underneath his chin. So again, I'm bumping and straight up. Important that you don't go up